Boy, welcome back to our science segment of church here. And we've been sort of stuck on density, and that's okay because there's a lot of things that we can show dealing with density. And we have another demonstration that deals with density too. And I think it's a really good refresher. It's a good, make sure you have a good understanding of what density is. And again, we don't want to say it's heavy or light. Um, we want to say that it's more dense or less dense. And so what we have here is we have a bowl of water. And one of the things for you older scientists, you'll know that the density of water is 1. It's really a hard number to remember. It's 1.00 gram per milliliter, but just all you have to do is remember 1. And so remember, we have water in this blue bottle, and we have baby oil on top. The baby oil, the reason why it's floating is because it has a density less than water. Now we can say it has a density less than 1. And so what I have here is I have two things of soap. And one of the things I do want to mention before I really get started here is that Missy is our camera person. And right now we are practicing social distancing. I do have a mask in my pocket, and I think today is one of those times where we are going to get closer together, and so that's when I'll put on my mask. But right now we're doing pretty well in terms of staying far apart. We're probably 10 to 12 feet apart right now. So what I want to do is I want to show you here in terms of this 2 bars of soap. And it's really interesting here. I have some caress. Actually, Missy took it from her dad. And if we put it in this water here, you'll notice that it sinks. And that, in a sense, is a really pretty good, neat idea, a pretty common idea, because all soap, when you put it in water, sinks. Now let's give it a value. I have no idea what the density of soap is, but I know because water is 1, and it sank in the water, it has to have a density greater than 1. Again, if it was less, we would find it floating. And that's where we're going with today is I have a bar of ivory soap. And I'll tell you, if you go right now and talk to your parents, look at them and go, what's so special about ivory soap? They'll look at you probably with a funny look. Because this is sort of a generational thing. And I'm 58 years old, and I vaguely remember the commercials about ivory soap. And I vaguely remember it was like 99.49% pure. That was their big thing that they put out in their advertisement and their commercials. But the other thing that they did is that they said, this is the soap that floats. And you see, hopefully, that you'll see that the soap here, the ivory soap, is floating in the water where the other soap is sunk to the bottom. And there's a neat story about this. And I think maybe if your parents didn't know that, I think if you ask your grandparents that, they would probably say, oh yeah, ivory soap is the one that floats. And they'd be correct on that. But there's a neat story about ivory soap that I want to share with you, and how it became the only soap that floats. But before we do that, I want to make sure I get this nice and wet here. And the other thing I want to tell you, we are going to go walk over to the microwave. And this is where Missy and I might be getting closer together, so I'm going to put my mask on quickly here. But I want to do something with the microwave that, you know, maybe you should not do, or you should ask your parents for permission to do. Okay? It's not harmful for the microwave, but some of the other things that we might do with the microwave might be a little harmful for it. But this is something, you know, when you're using anything, especially, you know, depending on your age, get your parents' help. It is pretty neat what happens to the ivory soap. So I'm going to put my mask on here. And what I'm going to do is to put that wet ivory soap. The key thing is to make sure it's really, really wet. I'm going to put it on a paper plate, and I'm going to hand it over to the other side while I come over there. And we'll get all the cameras adjusted here, and here's the microwave that we're going to use. All right, and I'm going to put it in the microwave, and I'm going to put it on for, say, 3 minutes. I take my glasses off so I can read. Oh, the big one, it said start. That might be the one to use. All right, so what about the ivory soap making story here? Well, it's a pretty neat story, and you can go to ivory.com and you can look up this story yourself. And I'm not going to embellish it too much. I'm going to try to tell you, you know, most of the truth. And so ivory soap at one time sank like all the other soaps did. All right? And so back in the factory where they made ivory soap, there was a person who mixed it and all that sort of stuff. He had it in this big mixer type of thing. And you're supposed to mix it for a certain amount of time and things like that. And what happened to is that he was invited, oh, let's go out, Charlie or Beth, let's go out for lunch. And you know what he did? Is he forgot. He forgot to turn off the blender. Oh my goodness, look what's happening inside of there. Maybe 2 minutes is too long. Actually, I'm going to hit stop. I'm going to open it up a little bit. There you go. I'm going to leave it in there. I'm going to continue on with my soap story, my ivory soap making. So they went out for lunch, and the blender is still blending. So when we blend something, what we're doing is we're mixing it up, but we're also mixing it up with air. Not only our ingredients, but we're taking the air from outside, you know, in the room and stuff, and we're mixing air in there. And so when he came back, or when she came back, they found the blender on, the mixer on. It's like, oh no, I'm going to get fired. It's been on too long. What am I going to do? And so he did, or she, I don't remember if it was a he or she, but they went and told their boss. And their boss was pretty smart. Their boss said, so you really didn't add anything new to it, did you? And they didn't. They didn't add any more chemicals or something. It just simply was blended longer than it should. And if you ask your parents if you blend something longer than it should, things happen to it because of the air that you put in. And so the person said, let's just make it, we'll package it up, we'll make it in bars, and we'll sell it as is. And so they did. They sold it as is. And when the people bought ivory soap and they were in there, like say in the bathtub or whatever, they found that soap gets slippery. And most soap, when it slips out of your hands, it goes right down to the bottom of the bathtub. But when ivory soap slipped out of their hands, it floated on the top. And they go, wow, look at that. This is so cool. I'm going to buy this soap because it floats. Well, back in the ivory soap making factory, they started continuing making it just the way they normally would make it. And so now they made it without blending it too long. And guess what happened to it? Ivory soap sank at the beginning. They blended it too long with air, so now it floats. And then they went back to the old way, and now it sinks. And so here the people were buying ivory soap and said, oh, look at this. This is so cool. Look what happens. And it did exactly what normal soap does, because it has a greater density. And so they wrote to Ivory and said, hey, we want the soap that floats. They demanded it. And so guess what they do now? They just blend it, mix it, just for a longer period of time. They add air to it, and now it becomes still the only soap that floats. Because people complained because of just a mistake that happened in the mixing process by some poor person who wanted to go out to lunch early. So I wonder what it looks like in there. So let's take a look at it and see. Oh my goodness. Remember it was a bar? And now, in a sense, it looks like shaving cream. And what happens is, the air that was blended in there, just like what you do if you put a marshmallow in the microwave, it expands because there's a lot of air inside, and that air heats up and it just sort of expands, and it causes the material to expand around it, and so that's what happens. So I guess my question to you is, I wonder, by putting it in the microwave, if it changed the property at all. I wonder if it's still the soap that floats. Missy, could you maybe get that? You can just maybe even get that bowl that we have full with water, a little cloudy water, wherever you want to put it for your camera to look at it. What do you think, guys? Do you think it will be still the soap that floats, or do you think this will sink? Well, let's take a look at it. And sure enough, did you guess right? Ivory soap is still the only soap that floats, even when you put it in the microwave. Guys, have fun with science. Take care. Have a great day. Bye.